Imagine this: 3 legendary cities, born from ambition, faith, and mystery, once thriving with life, now standing silent as riddles carved into stone. Tonight, we set off on a journey across centuries and continents to uncover the secrets of Angkor, the vast jungle capital of the Khmer Empire, where temples stretch into the horizon like dreams etched in stone. We descend into the underground silence of China, where an emperor's obsession led to the creation of an eternal army buried in darkness. And we rise into the thin, misty air of the Andes to stand among the walls of Machu Picchu, a city in the clouds whose purpose remains shrouded in speculation. Sit back, relax, let the world around you fade, and prepare to drift into the shadows of history, where each city whispers of mysteries unsolved and legacies unseen. As you listen, you may picture the jungle, vines wrapping around towers, the sound of footsteps echoing against hollow corridors, or the stillness of ancient statues watching through time. These are not just ruins, they are echoes of civilizations that dared to leave their mark on the earth. Their stories suspended between what we know and what we may never truly understand. Some researchers claim to have answers, while others admit the questions only deepen the further we look. That tension between knowledge and uncertainty is what makes these places more than archaeological sites. They are portals into the unknown. Over the next 2 hours, we will move carefully, deliberately, through these mysteries, one by one. We begin with Angkor, the lost jewel of Southeast Asia, where an empire's rise and fall are captured in stone. From there, we descend into the depths of China's earth to meet the terracotta army, thousands of warriors frozen in silence, awaiting a command that never came. And finally, we ascend into the clouds, to the hidden terraces of Machu Picchu, where the Inca's secret retreat leaves us questioning purpose, survival, and power. Each city raises a lingering question, each leaves behind an echo that resists explanation. So close your eyes if you wish, breathe with the rhythm of the words, and let the journey carry you back into the fog of forgotten time. Picture the year 1296. A traveler from China, Zhou Dogwan, enters the heart of a city so vast, so alive, that it seems to pulse with its own rhythm. He writes of grand avenues lined with stone guardians, of towers that pierce the sky, and of markets brimming with voices and color. This was Angkor, the capital of the Khmer Empire, a metropolis that rivaled the greatest cities on earth. Yet, what Zhou Dogwan could not have imagined is that centuries later, the same streets he walked would be consumed by silence. Its once thriving halls buried beneath jungle vines, its walls broken but not forgotten. For a long time, Angkor was spoken of as a lost city, rediscovered not by accident, but by persistence. When explorers of the 19th century wandered into the forests of Cambodia and found stone faces staring at them through the roots of strangler figs, imagine the sensation: sweat dripping in the humid air, insects buzzing, and then suddenly, massive towers looming above, covered in moss and carved with intricate detail, as if the jungle itself was guarding a secret. Some described it as stumbling into a dream. Others believed they had found evidence of a forgotten civilization beyond comprehension. But Angkor was not simply a city of stone. It was a living engine of empire, home to over 1 million people, with water systems that stretched like veins across the land, channeling rivers into reservoirs and moats that still glisten beneath the sun today. The Khmer had engineered one of the most advanced hydraulic systems the world had ever seen, a network designed to harness nature itself. And yet, despite all this brilliance, Angkor fell. The city slipped into ruin, leaving behind more questions than answers. Was it war, famine, climate, or simply time itself that unraveled such magnificence? Even today, researchers debate, each theory holding pieces of the puzzle, but none complete. As you imagine those first explorers brushing away vines and wiping dirt from ancient carvings, picture yourself standing before Angkor Wat, its reflection shimmering on still waters at dawn, the air thick with mist. You are staring not at ruins, but at the skeleton of a once living giant. What secrets lie hidden in the stones? What stories were lost when the city went silent? At the core of Angkor's power was not just its temples or palaces, but water. Imagine looking down from above, seeing canals stretching for miles, reservoirs the size of lakes, and moats encircling temples like protective shields. The Khmer understood that controlling water meant controlling life itself, and they mastered it with genius precision. The West Barry, one of Angkor's colossal reservoirs, spans over 5 miles in length, a man-made sea carved into the land, designed to catch and store the rains of the monsoon. From these reservoirs, an intricate lattice of canals flowed outward, nourishing rice fields that fed the city's immense population. To walk through Angkor at its height would have been to witness an empire where stone and water moved in harmony. The temples were not merely monuments, but spiritual engines. Aligned with the heavens, their towers shaped to represent the sacred Mount Meru, the cosmic axis of Hindu and Buddhist belief. At sunrise, light would fall across the carvings with mathematical precision, as if the builders had harnessed not only the elements of earth, but also the patterns of the cosmos. Some scholars argue that Angkor was the world's first true hydraulic city, a place where engineering met religion, where practicality blended seamlessly with the mystical, yet this reliance on water may also have been its weakness. Evidence suggests that a series of droughts, followed by catastrophic floods, may have disrupted the delicate balance of Angkor's water system, undermining the very foundation of the empire's stability. Was nature itself responsible for toppling one of humanity's greatest cities? Or was it human ambition that stretched too far, unable to withstand the shifting climate? As you let these questions linger, imagine the sound of water flowing through stone channels, the soft trickle beneath bridges, the glint of sunlight on the moat surrounding Angkor Wat. Every drop mattered. Every reservoir was a heartbeat, and when the rhythm faltered, so too did the empire. Today, when the rains fall in Cambodia, you can still see the outlines of these ancient waterways from the air. Veins of an empire long gone, reminders that power can be as fragile as the flow of water. What lessons were hidden in those canals? And did the Khmer foresee the danger of depending so heavily on nature's moods? Step into Angkor today, and the first thing that commands your attention is Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument in the world, its towers rising like stone lotus buds above a vast moat. But Angkor Wat is only the beginning. Across the ancient city, hundreds of temples dot the landscape, each one a gateway into the spiritual heart of the Khmer Empire. Imagine the dawn sun spilling gold across the towers, casting long shadows over bas-reliefs that stretch for hundreds of meters, carved with scenes of gods, demons, and epic battles. These were not mere decorations, they were sacred stories, etched into eternity, meant to remind every passerby of the empire's divine order. At the Bayan temple, the mystery deepens. Here, massive stone faces, serene and smiling, stare outward from dozens of towers. Their eyes seem to follow you, their lips fixed in an expression that is at once calm and unsettling. Scholars debate whose face it is, perhaps the Bodhisattva of Avalokiteshvara, the compassionate guardian, or maybe King Jayavarman VII himself, deified in stone, his gaze extending across his empire. Walk among them and you may feel the sensation of being watched, not by ghosts, but by the empire itself, a reminder that power here was both earthly and divine. Then there is Tar Prom, a temple half consumed by nature, where roots of giant silk-cotton trees spill over walls like frozen waterfalls. Stones lie scattered, yet the temple still breathes. The clash of human ambition and the relentless force of the jungle forever locked in silent struggle. To wander here is to feel the passage of time itself pressing against your skin. Why did the Khmer carve their devotion into such immense monuments? Was it to honor the gods, to demonstrate their power, or to ensure their names lived forever? Some researchers believe the temples were designed as cosmic maps, their layouts reflecting constellations above, their architecture aligning earth with sky. If true, then every block of sandstone, every tower and corridor was part of a greater equation linking humanity to the heavens. Today, as visitors stand in the stillness, looking up at towers silhouetted against a burning sunset, they cannot help but ask, what faith, what vision, could move a people to carve eternity into stone, and do the faces, smiling through centuries of decay, still hold a message we have yet to understand? Close your eyes and imagine Angkor, not as a ruin, but as a living city. The year is 1200 AD. The streets hum with voices, merchants calling out their wares, children running barefoot across wooden bridges, monks in saffron robes moving silently toward the great temples. The smell of spices drifts through the air, mingling with the smoke of cooking fires, while elephants march slowly under the weight of stone blocks destined to become part of new towers. At its height, Angkor was home to nearly 1 million people, making it one of the largest cities in the world. It was not only a spiritual center, but a metropolis buzzing with markets, artisans, and communities from across Asia. Imagine traders from India arriving with textiles, Chinese merchants unloading ceramics, and local farmers bringing baskets of rice, fish, and tropical fruits. Life here was vibrant and deeply interconnected, sustained by the intricate water system that made fertile rice paddies stretch into the horizon. For the ordinary people of Angkor, the temples were distant symbols of the divine, but their daily reality was one of survival, trade, and community. Houses made of wood and thatch lined the streets, long since vanished, leaving only the stone monuments as witnesses of the past. Yet even those who lived simple lives contributed to the grandeur of the empire, whether through labor, farming, or craftsmanship. What must it have felt like to live in the shadow of Angkor Wat, to see towers rising above the treetops every morning, reminding you that your city was not just powerful but sacred? Some researchers believe Angkor was not only a capital but a magnet for pilgrims, a place where devotion, politics, and daily life blended seamlessly. But just as the city thrived, shadows crept in. Inscriptions speak of wars, of shifting rulers, of the immense weight of maintaining such a vast system. Perhaps the seeds of Angkor's downfall were already being sown in its golden age. Today, when we wander through the silent ruins, it's easy to forget the lives that once filled these spaces, the laughter, the noise, the chaos of a thriving city. What stories remain hidden beneath the soil, waiting to remind us that Angkor was never meant to be a relic, but a beating heart of human ambition and devotion. No empire lasts forever, But the decline of Angkor remains one of history's great enigmas. How could a city so vast, so advanced, and so spiritually charged collapse into silence? Theories swirl like mist over the jungle. Some historians point to relentless wars with neighboring kingdoms, particularly the Siamese to the west, whose armies may have struck deep into Khmer territory, weakening the empire's hold. Others suggest that shifting trade routes left Angkor stranded, bypassed by the wealth of maritime commerce that flowed along the coasts. But perhaps the most compelling theory lies in the sky. Evidence from tree rings and sediment suggests that, during Angkor's final centuries, the region endured decades of crippling droughts, followed by sudden, devastating floods. The hydraulic system that once sustained millions may have faltered under such stress, its canals clogged, its reservoirs failing to deliver water when it was needed most. Imagine farmers staring at dry, cracked fields where rice once grew in abundance, then watching helplessly as torrential rains washed away embankments and temples alike. A city so dependent on balance had lost its harmony. Yet Angkor did not vanish overnight. Inscriptions reveal kings still building temples even as decline set in, perhaps desperately clinging to the old power. The people too must have lingered, holding on to rituals and routines until the burden became unbearable. By the 15th century, Angkor was largely abandoned, its grand temples left to the mercy of the jungle. But why did they leave? Did they march south toward Phnom Penh in search of new trade? Were they driven by hunger, by invasion, or by a sense that the gods themselves had turned away? Standing today among the ruins, you can almost hear the echoes of that last departure, footsteps fading, doors closing, silence rushing in. The jungle seized what was left, roots twisting around columns, vines draping over statues like shrouds. For centuries, travelers whispered of a lost city hidden in the forests of Cambodia, a legend waiting to be rediscovered. Angkor's fall remains as haunting as its rise. Was it nature, politics, or fate that ended the reign of this hydraulic empire? And perhaps the deeper question, can any civilization, no matter how great, ever escape the slow grip of time? For centuries after its decline, Angkor lay hidden beneath the jungle canopy, its towers veiled in vines, its faces eroded by rain and silence. Locals knew of the ruins. Of course, stories and legends persisted in the villages, but to the outside world, Angkor became a ghost, a rumor of a city swallowed by time. It wasn't until the 19th century that Western explorers, scholars, and adventurers began to bring its story back into the light. Imagine pushing through dense Cambodian jungle in the 1860s, the air heavy with humidity, insects buzzing, each step sinking into mud, when suddenly stone emerges from the greenery. A carved face peers out from a curtain of roots, a tower rises from the foliage, and you realize you are standing in the ruins of a forgotten civilization. Henry Mouat, a French naturalist and explorer, is often credited with introducing Angkor to the wider world through his writings. When his accounts reached Europe, readers were stunned. How could such colossal monuments exist in Southeast Asia, rivaling the pyramids of Egypt or the temples of Greece? Some dismissed it as fantasy, others as exaggeration, yet photographs and detailed drawings soon confirmed the truth. Angkor was real, and it was magnificent. The rediscovery sparked a rush of archaeological interest, and with it, new debates. Who built these temples? Were they truly the work of the Khmer, or some older, vanished people? Colonial era scholars, influenced by their own biases, often doubted that a Southeast Asian civilization could achieve such grandeur, preferring to imagine lost races or outside influences. But the truth slowly emerged. Angkor was Khmer through and through, a testament to the ingenuity and devotion of its people. Even so, mystery lingered. Why had it been abandoned? Why had so much effort been poured into carving stone when wooden thatch homes of the people had long since vanished? Today, as archaeologists map the site with lasers and satellites, they continue to find hidden structures, roads, canals, entire neighborhoods buried beneath forest growth. Angkor, it seems, is still being rediscovered. The city may have fallen, but its echoes refuse to fade. And each rediscovery, each stone revealed, deepens the riddle rather than solving it. If a city so vast could vanish once, how many more lie waiting, hidden just beyond the reach of our eyes? Walk the galleries of Angkor Wat or the walls of Bayonne, and you are immediately surrounded by stories etched in stone, a library of images that has survived centuries. Bas-reliefs stretch endlessly, carved with such precision that even now, after rain and time have worn their edges, the figures seem to breathe. On one wall, you see the great churning of the ocean of milk, a Hindu myth where gods and demons pull a serpent coiled around a mountain to create the nectar of immortality. The detail is staggering: muscles, tense eyes, focused, divine beings, locked in eternal struggle. Move further along and the carvings shift from myth to history. You see processions of soldiers, elephants clad in armor, kings seated on thrones, dancers in flowing costumes, and ordinary villagers cooking, fishing, and working the fields. These are not just decorations, they are snapshots of Khmer life, carved with an intent to preserve memory. It is through these reliefs that we glimpse both the grandeur of the empire and the intimacy of daily life. Yet some carvings raise questions. On certain walls, figures appear that do not belong to myth or history as we know it. Strange creatures, unfamiliar animals, and unusual symbols make scholars pause. One famous carving in Ta Prohm resembles what appears to be a stegosaurus, leading to wild theories about lost knowledge or misinterpretation of local fauna. Most archaeologists dismiss such claims, but the carvings still invite curiosity. Did the Khmer truly see, and what did they wish to pass on? The artistry itself suggests incredible skill. To carve sandstone with such fluidity, to fill it with expression and movement, required not just tools, but vision. Some researchers believe the reliefs served a dual purpose: to honor the gods and kings, but also to ensure that the Khmer way of life, their victories and beliefs, would outlast the city itself, and in that they succeeded. Even as wood rotted and homes vanished, the stories in stone remained, waiting for us to read them centuries later. As you run your eyes across these carvings, imagine the hands that created them. Artisans who may have never known their names would be forgotten, but whose work would endure. Do these reliefs still speak directly to us, or are we only guessing at their voices, trying to translate a language carved in silence? Behind every temple and every stone face at Angkor stands the will of kings who sought to etch their power into eternity. The Khmer rulers were not content to simply govern. They aimed to merge themselves with the divine, to blur the line between man and God. Take Suryaphar Mandua, the king who commissioned Angkor Wat in the 12th century. His vision was colossal, a temple not only to honor the Hindu god Vishnu, but also to serve as his own mausoleum, a bridge between heaven and earth. Imagine the vast workforce, mobilized tens of thousands of laborers hauling sandstone blocks, From quarries miles away, artisans chiseling endless reliefs, priests overseeing the temple's sacred alignment with the stars. Angkor Wat was not just architecture, it was a cosmic statement, declaring the king's place at the center of the universe. Then came Jayavarman VII, one of the most powerful and enigmatic of Khmer rulers. His reign marked a shift from Hinduism to Buddhism, and his presence dominates Angkor through temples like Bayon, where those countless serene stone faces gaze outward. Was it the face of the Bodhisattva of compassion, or his own, elevated into divinity? Jayavarman VII also built Tar Prom, dedicating it to his mother, its walls now wrapped in tree roots like veins binding stone. His vision extended beyond temples here, constructed roads, hospitals, and rest houses, weaving the empire together not only with monuments, but with infrastructure. To live under these kings was to live under rulers who demanded loyalty not only through governance, but through faith. The temples served as propaganda carved in stone, each one reinforcing the king's divine right to rule. And yet, ambition has a price. Each king sought to outdo his predecessor, building larger, grander, more elaborate monuments. The weight of such projects must have strained the empire's resources, requiring endless labor, endless devotion, and endless sacrifice. Did this unrelenting drive contribute to Angkor's eventual decline? Were the people exhausted under the shadow of eternal construction? Today, when we gaze upon Angkor's temples, we see both devotion and dominance, spirituality and politics, fused into stone. The kings wanted to be remembered as more than rulers. They wanted to be gods in the memory of their people, and in a way, they succeeded. Their names may fade, but their monuments still rise, whispering across time. But one must wonder, did these kings know that eternity itself is fragile? Stand before Angkor Wat at dawn, and you witness a scene almost too surreal to be real. The sky bleeds orange and violet, the reflection of towers rippling across the still moat, the jungle around you waking with the calls of unseen birds. It is in this moment that the enigma of Angkor settles into your bones. This was once the beating heart of an empire, a city so advanced in its time that it rivaled the greatest capitals of the world, yet today it exists as both ruin and miracle. For historians, Angkor is a puzzle, a city that rose from ingenuity, thrived on devotion, and fell to forces still not fully understood. Was its decline the fault of human ambition, overbuilding temples at the cost of sustainability? Was it the climate, with droughts and floods breaking the delicate balance of the hydraulic system? Or was it the inevitable march of history, as rival powers pressed in and trade routes shifted away? The truth may be a blend of all these forces, and perhaps something more elusive. For travelers, Angkor is less a question of history than of presence. To wander its courtyards, to trace your fingers across carvings softened by centuries, is to feel the weight of time collapse. You are no longer simply an observer. You are part of the silence, a witness to a city that refuses to be forgotten. The mystery of Angkor lies not only in how it was built or why it fell, but in how it continues to speak. Every temple, every face of stone, every half-buried causeway whispers that greatness is fragile, that civilizations rise and fall like the rains that once sustained them. And yet, even in ruin, Angkor endures. It endures as a monument to human vision, to the longing for eternity, to the relentless pursuit of leaving something behind that outlives flesh and memory. As we leave Angkor in this journey, its image lingers, a city reclaimed by jungle but not erased, a story half told, an enigma that may never fully be solved. It is the reminder that beneath the surface of history lies silence, and in that silence, mysteries wait. From Angkor's shadowed towers, we now turn east to another legend buried in the earth of China. There, an emperor's obsession created, not temples but legions, a city of soldiers entombed in silence, awaiting the command of a king who would never return. In 1974, in the dry soil of Shanxi province, farmers digging a well made a discovery that would shock the world. Their shovels struck clay, not ordinary earth, but fragments of a life-sized face staring back at them from the dirt. What they had uncovered was not just a statue, but the first soldier of an army that had been sleeping beneath the ground for over 2,000 years. This was the Terracotta Army, one of the most staggering archaeological finds in history. Imagine descending into the excavation pits today, row after row of clay warriors standing in silence, thousands of them, each one unique. Their armor is detailed, their hair pulled back, their expressions carved with an eerie individuality, as if real men had been frozen in time. Some stand tall with spears, others kneel with crossbows, horses rear beside chariots, generals tower above their troops, all aligned in precise formation, waiting for a battle that will never come. These soldiers were built to guard the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, a man who unified warring states into a single empire in 221 BC, obsessed with power and immortality. He demanded not only a mausoleum for himself, but an entire subterranean kingdom, complete with rivers of mercury, palaces, treasures, and this vast army of clay protectors. For centuries, legends spoke of the tomb, but none could imagine its scale until those farmers unearthed the first soldier. The army stretches across acres, with estimates of over 8,000 warriors, though many remain buried. And yet, the greatest mystery lies untouched, the central tomb of the emperor himself. Ancient texts describe it as a palace underground, lit with constellations painted on the ceiling, rivers flowing with liquid mercury to mimic the seas, and traps designed to kill any intruder. Modern technology confirms high levels of mercury in the soil, lending weight to the accounts, but the chamber remains sealed. To open it risks destroying both its contents and its secrets. And so, the emperor waits, his silent guardians standing. Watch. Who carved these soldiers? Who gave them their lifelike individuality? Was it devotion, fear, or both that compelled thousands of artisans to create such a staggering force? And what might still be hidden deeper beneath the earth, waiting for the world to see? To understand the Terracotta Army, we must first understand the man who commanded it into existence, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a united China. His reign, beginning in 221 BC, was marked by brilliance and brutality, vision and fear. He built roads that stitched the empire together, standardized weights, measures, and even currency, and began the construction of the Great Wall. Yet behind these achievements was a ruler haunted by a single obsession: immortality. Qin Shi Huang could not accept death as an end. He dispatched ships to seek the elixir of life, sent alchemists to search for islands of the immortals, and consumed concoctions of mercury and jade believed to prolong existence. Ironically, these potions may have hastened his death, poisoning the body he so desperately sought to preserve. But in his paranoia and longing for eternal life, he conceived something else. He could not conquer death, he would create a kingdom beyond it. His tomb, begun when he was still young, became the project of a lifetime. Hundreds of thousands of workers labored for decades, shaping a subterranean world that mirrored his empire above. Palaces, treasures, and rivers of flowing mercury were said to await him in the afterlife. And to guard this eternal domain, he demanded an army, not of flesh, but of clay. Each terracotta warrior was sculpted with precision, no two alike, as though the artisans poured fragments of real men into the figures. Was it a reflection of his need to command individuality, even in death? Or was it to convince the spirits that his army was alive, ready to march into the next world? The scale is staggering, the ambition unmatched. To gaze upon these silent figures today is to feel the weight of his obsession pressing through centuries. They are not just statues. They are echoes of fear, desire, and the unyielding will of a man who could not accept his own mortality. And yet, the greatest irony is that while Qin Shi Huang sought immortality, he achieved it not through alchemy or divine elixirs, but through clay and stone. His body decayed, his kingdom fractured after his death, but his army still stands, immortal. In its silence, was this the immortality he envisioned, or has history played its own cruel trick, ensuring that his name endures, not for living forever, but for building an army that never lived at all? Behind the grandeur of the terracotta army lies a darker truth, the staggering human cost of its creation. Ancient records suggest that Qin Shi Huang conscripted hundreds of thousands of laborers, soldiers, peasants, prisoners, and artisans to build his tomb complex. For them, the emperor's dream of immortality was a life sentence of toil, and often of death. Imagine the scene 2,000 years ago. Vast pits carved into the earth, scaffolding rising above the ground, the clatter of hammers against clay, the heat of kilns firing thousands of figures day and night. Skilled artisans sculpted heads and hands with careful detail, while others molded torsos, legs, and armor. Each warrior was assembled in parts, then finished with unique touches: the curve of a mustache, the angle of an eyebrow, the folds of clothing creating the illusion of individuality. Horses were shaped with muscular precision, chariots built to scale, weapons once real and deadly placed in their hands. For the emperor, it was perfection. For the workers, it was labor without end. But what happened when the project was complete? Some ancient accounts whisper of a grim fate. To preserve the secrecy of the tomb and its treasures, many of the workers were said to have been sealed inside, entombed with their creation, their silence ensuring the emperor's eternal protection. Whether myth or fact, the possibility lingers over the site like a shadow. Archaeologists have found no mass graves within the main pits, but they acknowledge the likelihood that many lives were consumed by the decades-long effort. Even without being buried alive, countless workers surely perished from exhaustion, disease, or accidents as they labored on a scale rarely seen in human history. And yet, their artistry remains. Though their names are forgotten, their skill lives on in every soldier's face, every meticulously carved hand, every detail that makes this clay army seem alive. It is a haunting irony. The emperor's quest for immortality erased the identities of those who gave him his eternal guardians. They vanish into history, while the emperor they served is remembered in stone and legend. As you look into the silent ranks of terracotta soldiers, ask yourself, are you gazing upon an army of the emperor, or an unmarked monument to the labor and sacrifice of thousands of forgotten souls? When archaeologists first began to clear the soil from Pit 1 of the terracotta army, they quickly realized that what lay before them was not chaos but precision. The clay warriors were not simply lined up as decoration. They were positioned in the calculated formation of a real army, the same strategies that once marched across the battlefields of ancient China. The front lines were filled with archers, crouched low or standing tall, their hands once gripping crossbows that have long decayed. Behind them came the main infantry, arranged in tight blocks, their expressions carved with grim determination. To the flanks stood armored generals and officers, taller than the soldiers, their detailed breastplates signifying higher rank, and behind, rows of chariots pulled by clay horses, with their drivers frozen forever mid-motion, gave the formation depth and speed. Each pit was designed like a battlefield frozen in time, as though Qin Shi Huang meant to carry not just an army into death, but the entire machinery of war. Yet it was not only soldiers that he commanded into eternity. Alongside them were artisans of clay animals, officials, acrobats, and musicians, signs that the emperor wanted not only protection, but the comforts and order of his earthly empire, replicated beneath the ground. To stand before these formations is to feel the echo of discipline and strategy that once defined China's might. But it also raises a curious question. Why build such a vast army for a world beyond life? Some historians argue it reflects the emperor's paranoia, his fear of rebellion even in death, his need for control so complete that not even the afterlife was safe from his demands. Others suggest it symbolizes the cosmic order that Qin believed in, balance and defense, not just in this world, but across all realms. Whatever the reason, the sight of regiment upon regiment standing in silence creates a sensation both awe-inspiring and eerie. It is as if the soldiers wait, not merely as guardians, but as an army still ready to march should their master call. And in that silence lies the true mystery. Are these warriors only clay statues? Or has the emperor, in his hunger for immortality, found a way to give them a spirit that continues to linger, unseen, in their endless formation? When the terracotta warriors were first uncovered, their empty hands revealed something startling. These were not just statues, they were soldiers meant to wield real weapons. Excavations revealed bronze swords, spears, halberds, crossbow mechanisms, and arrowheads buried alongside them, many astonishingly sharp despite being over 2,000 years old. The bronze was coated with a thin layer of chromium oxide, a treatment so advanced that some researchers called it an early form of rust-proofing, a technique modern metallurgy would not rediscover until the 20th century. Imagine the eerie scene: the soldiers lined in formation, each one armed as if awaiting the call to battle. The weapons themselves were not ceremonial imitations. They were fully functional, balanced, and deadly. Rows of arrowheads, crafted in bulk, suggest a production line system centuries before industrialization. Spears up to 3 meters long were found still gleaming, and bronze swords showed signs of being used for training before burial, their edges ground smooth by practice. The scale of this arming raises an unsettling question. Was this merely symbolic preparation for the afterlife, or was there something more literal at play? Some believe Qin Shi Huang may have feared threats even in death and sought to prepare for wars in an unseen realm. Others suggest the weapons also served as a hidden arsenal for the empire itself, a military reserve buried underground, should invaders ever desecrate his tomb. And yet, another mystery lingers: many of the weapons have since disappeared. Early reports describe an abundance of blades and crossbows, far more than what remains today, fueling speculation of theft, looting, or even suppression of evidence by later dynasties. What we do know is that the precision of the craftsmanship was unmatched for its time. bronze swords discovered in the pits were made with alloys of copper and tin in exact ratios, their handles fitted with rivets so snug they could rival modern engineering, and when scientists tested them, some still cut paper cleanly, as though freshly forged. To walk among these weapon-bearing warriors is to feel the presence of a silent army, not of clay alone, but of iron and bronze, their blades, once gleaming in the torchlight of burial. It is a reminder that Qin's ambition was not only to build an army, but to build a military reality beneath the soil, where the dead stood armed and ready, waiting for battles no living man would ever see. Each of the terracotta warriors stands as a frozen soldier, but behind their silence lies a mystery of creation. How were more than 8,000 life-size statues crafted in such detail, each with its own face, its own stance, its own personality? The process was nothing short of monumental. Archaeologists believe the statues were produced in workshops, much like assembly lines, with specialized teams responsible for heads, torsos, arms, and legs. The pieces were fired separately, then assembled and finished by hand, giving each soldier a sense of individuality. Some scholars suggest molds were used for basic shapes, but the final carving was done with such precision that no two faces appear exactly alike. Soldiers have different hairstyles, varying armor designs, and even unique expressions, some stern, others calm. A few even smiling faintly, as if caught in a moment of thought. The clay itself came from the yellow earth of Shanxi province, kneaded and mixed with grit for strength, then molded into form. Larger parts, like legs and torsos, were hollow to prevent cracking in the kiln. But the surfaces were smoothed, etched, and detailed with sharp instruments. Originally, these figures were not the muted grey we see today. They were painted in vivid hues of red, blue, green, black, and purple, their faces glowing with life, their armor shining with lacquer. Yet, almost as soon as the statues were unearthed, exposure to air caused the pigments to peel away in seconds, leaving only traces of what once was a vibrant army. This loss adds to the sense of mystery, as though the army wishes to remain in shadow, their full splendor hidden forever beneath the soil. But perhaps the most haunting aspect of their making lies in the labor itself. To create thousands of unique statues required tens of thousands of artisans, potters, and sculptors working under imperial command. Were they honored for their work, or were they silenced, their knowledge buried to ensure the secrets of Qin's afterlife force remained untouched? Some researchers whisper that those who knew too much were executed after the project's completion, their own graves unmarked, their hands stilled forever. To consider the making of the terracotta army is to confront not just the artistry of the ancient Chinese, but the chilling discipline of an emperor who could marshal human skill to build not only an empire above the earth, but a shadow empire below it. The silence of the soldiers, the individuality of their faces, the vanished color of their paint-all, these remind us that creation itself can be both a triumph of art and a monument to power. Beneath the soil of Shanxi province, only a fraction of the emperor's vision has been revealed. The terracotta army is arranged in vast pits, the largest stretching over 750 feet long, each divided into corridors that once held rank upon rank of clay soldiers. Yet what is visible today is believed to be only a glimpse of the whole. Archaeologists estimate that the underground complex spans nearly 38 square miles, an imperial necropolis so vast it defies imagination. Many of its chambers remain unexcavated, buried under centuries of earth, untouched by modern tools. Why? because hidden within lies a problem both scientific and supernatural. Ancient texts, particularly those of historian Sima Qian, speak of the emperor's tomb itself, a chamber said to contain rivers of mercury, flowing through a landscape of miniature mountains and seas, designed to mimic the known world. Mercury levels in the soil around the site are abnormally high, lending credibility to the tale. If true, this means the heart of the necropolis is a toxic labyrinth, guarded not only by clay soldiers, but by the very poison that symbolizes immortality in Chinese alchemy. Some researchers believe the unexcavated pits may contain more than just warriors. Horses, officials, musicians, acrobats, even entire chariots of bronze have been uncovered in the portions already explored, suggesting that countless others lie waiting. The emperor's underground kingdom was meant to replicate life in full, ensuring that in death, Qin Shi Huang would not want for anything. But the greatest mystery is why the central tomb itself remains sealed, out of respect, out of fear, or because even today, our technology is not yet capable of preserving what lies within. The painted figures we have uncovered already fade upon contact with air. Imagine opening the emperor's own chamber to sunken everything within, disintegrate before our eyes, vanishing into dust after surviving more than 2,000 years underground. And so the army remains half hidden, their secrets entombed in darkness, their presence reminding us that some mysteries resist unveiling. The silence of the unexcavated pits asks a question we cannot yet answer. Should every mystery be revealed? Or are some better left buried? The soldiers wait, patient and eternal, their watch unbroken, their secrets intact, whispering of a world that exists just beneath our feet, but forever out of reach. When we gaze upon the terracotta army, it is easy to think of them as mere statues, silent guardians with empty eyes. Yet in the context of ancient Chinese belief, they are far more than clay figures. Each warrior was a vessel of symbolism, a manifestation of the emperor's will to transcend mortality. To the people of Qin Shi Huang's era, death was not an end but a continuation, a passage to another plane where power, wealth, and authority could endure. The army was not art, it was insurance. The soldiers represented an eternal military presence, a force that would protect the emperor in the afterlife from enemies both human and supernatural. Some researchers suggest that the placement of the warriors reflects not just military logic but cosmic alignment. The idea that the necropolis was designed as a mirror of heaven itself. Rows of infantry, archers, charioteers, and cavalry were arranged with the precision of a living battlefield, echoing the emperor's obsession with order and control. But there is another layer, a spiritual one, hidden beneath the clay. In ancient Chinese cosmology, balance between heaven, earth, and the underworld was paramount. The terracotta army could be seen as an attempt to anchor the emperor's soul. Within this balance, a way of ensuring he would not wander aimlessly through the shadow realm. Instead, he would stride through eternity with his army intact, unchallenged, unbroken. The soldiers themselves were imbued with individuality, each face distinct, each expression unique, suggesting that artisans may have modeled them on real people. If this is true, the army becomes more than clay and symbol. It becomes a kind of resurrection. The emperor did not just command statues. He commanded echoes of living men, their likenesses preserved forever in fired earth, their spirits, perhaps bound to the clay forms through ritual. Some legends whisper that ceremonies of consecration were performed, breathing life into the lifeless, binding the essence of warriors into their figures. If so, The terracotta army is not only an act of devotion, but an act of spiritual conquest. An attempt to cheat death by fusing the physical and the ethereal. And yet, standing among them today, we cannot shake the eerie sensation that their stone gazes are more than carved detail, that they are watching, waiting, embodying the eternal hunger of a ruler who refused to relinquish power even to the grave. The question lingers like a shadow. Do they stand as protectors or as prisoners, forever bound to a dead emperor's dream? Behind every silent warrior in the terracotta army lies a story not only of empire and ambition, but of human hands, sweat, and sacrifice. The construction of this immense underground army was not the work of one man, nor even one generation, but of thousands of artisans, craftsmen, and laborers forced into service under the iron will of Qin Shi Huang. Historical records suggest that as many as 700,000 workers may have been involved in the emperor's mausoleum complex, an unfathomable number that paints a picture of both grandeur and suffering. Each soldier, with his unique facial features, hairstyles, and armor details, was shaped by skilled artisans who worked with molds, clay, slabs, and careful sculpting techniques. Yet the individuality of the warriors suggests that this was more than mass production. Some scholars believe that artisans were ordered to capture the likenesses of real soldiers, perhaps even using their corpses as models. If true, then every figure becomes a haunting portrait, a life frozen in earth, a testament. Two men who lived, fought, and perhaps died under the emperor's reign. But we must also consider the human cost of such a project. Ancient Chinese texts hint that many of the laborers who built the mausoleum never left it alive. To preserve the secrecy of the site, it is said that once the tomb was sealed, workers were entombed with it, buried alive alongside their creation. Whether myth or reality, the story adds a chilling layer to the silent ranks, as if the clay warriors are not only guardians of the emperor, but also monuments to those who built them. The artisans themselves were masterful innovators. They used assembly line techniques centuries before the modern era, with different groups specializing in heads, torsos, limbs, and armor, all brought together in a process that rivals industrial precision. After shaping, the figures were fired in massive kilns, transforming raw clay into enduring stone. They were once painted in vibrant hues, reds, greens, blues, and purples that gave them lifelike presence, though time and exposure have caused most of the colors to fade into ghostly pale. Standing among them now, we see muted statues, but in their prime, they would have been a dazzling, almost overwhelming spectacle of power. And perhaps that was the point, not just to build an army, but to create a theater of immortality, one where artisans gave shape to the emperor's obsession with eternity, even as their own lives slipped into shadow. Who were these builders, these unknown craftsmen whose fingerprints still rest in the clay? Were they honored as creators of history, or forgotten as expendable tools of empire? Beneath the rolling hills of Shan lies a labyrinth of secrets that few have seen and none have fully explored, the burial complex of Qin Shi Huang. The terracotta army is only the surface, the outer defense meant to guard what is said to be the most elaborate tomb ever constructed. According to historical texts, the emperor's mausoleum was designed as a microcosm of his empire, a reflection of the heavens and the earth, crafted underground to mirror the world above. It is said that rivers and seas of mercury flowed through the tomb, shimmering under ceilings studded with pearls to represent the night sky, an eternal cosmos beneath the soil. This description comes from the writings of the ancient historian Sima Qian, whose account, though centuries old, has sparked endless speculation. Modern scientific surveys of the site have revealed unusually high levels of mercury in the soil, suggesting that the old stories might hold a glimmer of truth. Yet the tomb itself remains sealed. Archaeologists face an impossible dilemma. To open the chamber might destroy it. The delicate pigments, the fragile structures, and even the possible mercury rivers could be lost forever with a single mistake. For now, the emperor's resting place remains untouched, hidden within a massive earthen pyramid that has stood for over 2,000 years. What lies within is a matter of fierce debate. Some believe the tomb contains not only treasures of gold, jade, and bronze, but also ancient texts, weapons, and knowledge that could reshape our understanding of early China. Others whisper of deadly traps, mechanical crossbows set to fire on intruders, poisons laid into the walls, or flooding systems designed to drown grave robbers. The emperor, obsessed with eternal life, may have even sought to protect his body from decay through alchemical methods that could have left strange remnants behind. And then there is the body itself. Did Qin Shi Huang, who searched tirelessly for immortality, truly rest in death? Or did he order something more, some preservation technique lost to time, leaving behind not a corpse but a puzzle for the ages? The burial complex is vast, stretching across nearly 38 square miles, far more than just a single tomb. It was a city of the dead, a reflection of the empire itself, where officials, concubines, and servants may have been buried alive to accompany their emperor into eternity. Standing at the edge of this forbidden world, we are left to wonder, is it mercy or caution that has kept the tomb sealed? And when the day comes that it is finally opened, will we be ready for what emerges from the darkness? High in the Andes of Peru, hidden among the ridges where the clouds cling to jagged stone and the river roars deep in the valley below, lies a place that has long been called the city in the sky. Machu Picchu is perhaps the most famous lost city in the world, a mountaintop fortress of stone terraces, temples, and stairways that seems to defy time itself. When explorers first laid eyes on its breathtaking form in the early 20th century, it seemed like a dreamer city that had survived untouched for centuries, shrouded in mist, waiting silently for its story to be told. The Inca built Machu Picchu in the 15th century, under the reign of the Emperor Pachacati, yet for reasons still unknown, it was later abandoned. Unlike Angkor or the Terracotta Army, Machu Picchu was never mentioned in the records of Spanish conquistadors. Its isolation and altitude kept it safe, hidden from outsiders, a secret whispered only by the mountains themselves. Today, when you walk along its stone pathways, past walls of seamless granite that fit so tightly together no blade can slip between them, you feel the weight of a civilization that understood the land in ways we struggle to grasp. The terraces carved into the steep slopes were not just for beauty. They were feats of agricultural engineering, designed to harness rain, resist erosion, and feed the people. The temples, aligned with the sun and stars, suggest a culture that saw no boundary between earth and sky. Yet, mysteries linger. Was Machu Picchu a royal retreat, a place of rest for Pachacati and his descendants? Was it a fortress, guarding trade routes and sacred lands? Or was it an observatory, a place where priest astronomers watched the heavens and charted the movements of the cosmos? Some suggest it may have been all three: a sacred, political, and scientific hub, a miniature universe set between the clouds and the earth. Its rediscovery in 1911 by Hiram Bingham ignited a global fascination, but even now, with decades of excavation and study, its true purpose eludes us. What is clear is the energy of the place, the sense of harmony, but also of mystery. Standing at the edge of the Sun Gate at dawn, as the first rays sweep across the city, you can feel the intention behind every stone, every stairway, every channel that guides water down from the mountains. Machu Picchu is not just a ruin, it is a question carved in stone, a reminder that even when civilizations fall silent, they leave behind echoes that still speak to those who listen. In 1911, when American explorer Hiram Bingham made his fateful journey into the Peruvian highlands, he was not looking for Machu Picchu. He was searching for Vilcabamba, the last stronghold of the Inca resistance against the Spanish. Guided by local farmers and villagers, he stumbled upon stone terraces and walls wrapped in dense jungle growth. What he uncovered was more than just ruins. It was a city untouched by conquest, preserved by isolation. Imagine the shock of stepping through vines and underbrush, only to find stairways, temples, and plazas seemingly frozen in time. The world was captivated. Newspapers called it the discovery of a lost city, a phrase that carried a sense of forbidden wonder, as if a doorway into a vanished world had suddenly been thrown open. For scholars, it was a puzzle unlike any other. How had such an advanced city remained hidden for so long? Why had it been abandoned? For the public, it was a vision of romance and mystery, a reminder that the earth still held secrets that modern maps and empires could not erase. But discovery also brought controversy. The artifacts Bingham removed, ceramics, tools, jewelry, were shipped to Yale University, igniting debates over cultural ownership that continue to this day. Peru has fought to reclaim its heritage, arguing that Machu Picchu is not merely a site of study, but a living symbol of national identity. And then there is the matter of what discovery truly means. Local Quechua people had always known of Machu Picchu. Farmers grazed animals on its terraces. Guides led Bingham there. To them, it was never lost, it was part of their ancestral memory. Yet the world only began to listen when outsiders gave it a name. The global reaction transformed Machu Picchu into an icon. Tourists soon followed in Bingham's footsteps, climbing the mountains, tracing the outlines of temples, and marveling at the ingenuity of the Inca. In a century, the city in the clouds went from obscurity to one of the most recognized wonders of the world. But with fame came new dangers. Foot traffic wore down stone steps, humidity gnawed at ancient walls, and debates erupted about how much exposure such a delicate site could endure. The reaction to its discovery was awe, but also hunger to see it, to claim it, to understand it. And in that hunger lies another question. Does the world's gaze preserve Machu Picchu, or does it slowly consume it? The answer may determine whether this city survives another 5 centuries, or fades once more into silence and shadow. To stand within Machu Picchu is to confront an impossible question. How did the Inca, without iron tools, wheels, or written language, raise such a city upon the knife edge of a mountain? Every stone of Machu Picchu is a testament to precision. Blocks of granite, some weighing more than 50 tons, are cut with such exactness that a single blade of grass cannot slip between them. They are fitted without mortar, locked together in a system known as ashlar masonry. This technique was not only beautiful, but functional, engineered to withstand the violent tremors of earthquakes that frequently rocked the Andes. where European cities cracked and toppled under such force. The walls of Machu Picchu flexed and held. The city itself is a network of mastery. Over 700 terraces cascade down the mountain slopes, their retaining walls holding soil and moisture in place. These terraces did more than provide farmland. They stabilized the entire site against erosion, transforming a precarious mountain into a fortress of agriculture. Stone canals carried water through the city with a brilliance that borders on the miraculous 17 fountains spill fresh mountain spring water into basins, ensuring supply to every sector of the city. The positioning of the structures is no less deliberate. The Temple of the Sun aligns with the solstices, casting beams of light onto its sacred stones. The Intihuatana, often called the hitching post of the sun, may have been an astronomical tool, its angles marking the seasons and binding the Inca calendar to the cycles of the heavens. Even the dwellings, simple in comparison to the temples, reveal architectural genius. Trapezoidal doors and windows designed to resist seismic shocks. Thatched roofs sloped to shed the torrential rains of the cloud forest. But what makes Machu Picchu most extraordinary is not just its construction, but its invisibility. From the valley below, the city disappears into the cliffs, as if the mountain itself guards its secret. Was this intentional? Many believe the Inca designed it as a sanctuary, hidden from the Spanish invaders who scoured the land below. If so, their plan succeeded. Machu Picchu was never found by conquistadors. It remained beyond the reach of empire, preserved in the silence of the peaks. And yet, the more we uncover of its engineering, the more the city feels like a message proof that human hands, guided by devotion to earth and sky, can defy the impossible. But it is also a challenge. If the Inca could do this without steel, wheels, or modern machines, what does it say about the knowledge we have lost, or the arrogance of assuming we are always more advanced than those who came before? Machu Picchu is not simply a city of stone. It is a city of spirit, where every wall, terrace, and temple speaks of a devotion to forces larger than human life. To walk its paths is to enter a living ritual, a sacred choreography set upon the bones of the Andes. At its core lies the Temple of the Sun, a semicircular structure of finely carved stone that embraces the light of the sun. On those days when the year turns, the rising sun pierces its windows and casts a perfect shaft of light upon its altar, linking heaven and earth in a ceremony that transcends time. For the Inca, the sun was not merely a celestial body, but a god, Inti, giver of life and sustainer of empire. Here at Machu Picchu, they sought to anchor his presence. Adjacent to the temple lies a cave, believed to have been a shrine to Pachamama, the Earth Mother. The duality is unmistakable: sun above, earth below, both bound together in ritual symmetry. Higher still rests the Intihuatana stone, a massive carved pillar, often called the hitching post of the sun. Its angles align with the equinoxes and solstices, and though its precise function remains a mystery, many believe it was an instrument of cosmic order. To touch it, even now, is said to connect one with energy flowing through the mountains, a pulse of power that scientists cannot measure, but countless visitors swear they feel. Scattered across the site are ritual baths and fountains, channels, that delivered water not only for survival but for purification. Water was sacred, a bridge between realms, and every drop flowing down from the peaks was an offering from the gods. The placement of temples, plazas, and dwellings mirrors the sacred landscape around them. The mountains themselves, Huayna Picchu, Solcante Veronica, were seen as Apis, divine spirits watching over the people. Machu Picchu was not built in isolation, but as part of a conversation with these towering presences. A sanctuary where human devotion met the breath of the Andes. Archaeologists have found evidence of sacrifices here, offerings of food, textiles, and even the remains of llamas, all given to the gods to ensure balance and prosperity. Yet despite this ritual weight, Machu Picchu does not radiate darkness, it radiates reverence. It feels less like a city of the dead and more like a prayer carved in stone, a testament to a civilization that sought harmony with the cosmos. But questions linger. Was Machu Picchu a royal retreat, a sacred pilgrimage site, or a temple complex? For initiates of the highest order, each theory has merit, and perhaps the truth is all of them at once. For, in the heart of Machu Picchu, the sacred and the human are indistinguishable. Behind the walls of Machu Picchu, beyond the temples and ritual stones, lived the quiet pulse of daily life. The city was not only a sacred sanctuary, but a functioning community, sustained by the labor, devotion, and resilience of its inhabitants. These were not ordinary villagers, but carefully chosen men and women, hand-selected to serve the empire's most sacred site. Archaeological evidence suggests that the population never exceeded 1,000 at any one time, and many of those who lived here were specialist craftsmen, priests, caretakers, and attendants to the royal elite. The stone walls bear signs of workshops where artisans shaped tools, pottery, and textiles, creating goods both for practical use and for ritual offerings. The terraces that flow down the mountainside like green steps were more than an engineering wonder. They were lifelines, sustaining crops of maize, potatoes, and quinoa. Every furrow was filled with soil carried from distant valleys, proof of a people willing to bend nature itself to support their sanctuary. The Inca understood balance, and the people of Machu Picchu lived it daily. Their lives were measured by the rhythm of the sun, the demands of the earth, and the will of their gods. In the dawn light, rituals would be performed, prayers given. To Inti and Pachamama, work followed, from tending terraces to maintaining the stone structures that required constant care. Evenings were filled with ceremonies, with offerings cast into fire or water, with music carried on panpipes and drums, echoing off the mountainsides. Yet these were not lives of hardship alone. For many who lived here, this was a place of privilege. They dwelled in the shadow of royalty, close to the emperor's chosen sanctuary. Bones unearthed from the site show evidence of healthy diets compared to other Inca settlements, suggesting that those who served here were well-fed, well-protected, and valued. Women played a significant role, weaving intricate textiles that were as sacred as any temple stone, for cloth was currency, status, and offering in the Inca world. Some may have been a class-chosen women dedicated to service of the sun god, the emperor, and the rituals of empire. Their presence lent Machu Picchu both its mystery and its sanctity. Life here was not accidental. It was curated, designed, orchestrated, like the very stonework that surrounds the city. To live in Machu Picchu was to dwell at the axis of heaven and earth, where every action carried spiritual weight. The silence of these lives lingers in the pathways today, whispering of devotion, duty, and a rhythm of existence almost entirely lost to modern understanding. For centuries, Machu Picchu thrived in silence, its terraces blooming, its temples alive. With ritual, its people bound in harmony with the mountains. Yet no city, no matter how sacred, can resist the currents of history. The story of its fall is not one of cataclysmic fire or conquest, but of quiet abandonment, a vanishing act that left more questions than answers. When the Spanish arrived in Peru in the 16th century, their conquest shattered the Inca Empire, toppling rulers, desecrating shrines, and forcing the people into submission. Yet strangely, there is no record of the conquistadors ever finding Machu Picchu. Perhaps the mountains themselves concealed it, cloaked in cloud and forest. Or perhaps the Inca deliberately withheld its existence, guarding their most sacred sanctuary from foreign desecration. Archaeologists have uncovered no signs of violent destruction, no burning, no mass graves, no scorched walls. Instead, Picchu seems to have been left behind deliberately, its inhabitants melting away into the valleys below. Some suggest it was abandoned due to the collapse of the Inca political system, when without an emperor to sustain its purpose, the city lost its reason to exist. Others argue disease carried by Europeans reached even these isolated heights, decimating populations and leaving the terraces to the creeping jungle. There are whispers that Machu Picchu may have been one of the last refuges of the Inca elite, who fled here during the Spanish invasion. When the empire fractured, when the rivers of blood ran through Cusco, perhaps those who survived retreated here for a final breath of dignity. But in time even they could not remain. With no armies, no resources, and no empire to feed it, the sanctuary fell silent. The jungle began its slow reclamation, roots prying apart stones, vines wrapping around temples, the mountain mist shrouding the city in secrecy. For centuries it slumbered, known only to the local Quechua people who whispered of an ancient city, hidden in the clouds. To the outside world it vanished completely, erased from maps, lost to time, and in this vanishing lies its greatest mystery. Why would the Inca abandon a place of such perfection, such holiness, without struggle, without fire, without farewell? Was it fear? Was it disease? Or was it a deliberate choice to seal away their sanctuary from the corruption of conquest? The silence of its fall is almost more haunting than the ruins themselves, for it leaves us with an echo rather than an answer. A city preserved by absence, waiting centuries to be rediscovered. For nearly 4 centuries, Machu Picchu remained hidden, a ghost city swallowed by jungle and cloud. Farmers and herders in the valleys below knew of the ruins, passing down whispers of an old Inca town on the mountain, but to the outside world, it was erased, invisible, a memory buried under vines and moss. Then, in 1911, an American explorer named Hiram Bingham arrived in Peru on an expedition sponsored by Yale University and the National Geographic Society. Bingham was searching for Vilcabamba, the last refuge of the Inca resistance against the Spanish, a fabled city lost in the forests. Guided by locals, he climbed a steep, treacherous ridge where Quechua farmers still tended small plots among the ruins. When he stepped into the clearing and saw the stone walls of Machu Picchu, he believed he had found the legendary Vilcabamba. What lay before him was a city unlike anything he expected. Terraces cascaded down the slopes like giant steps, temples stood with their stones perfectly fitted, and walls rose from the jungle with a precision that defied belief. Though the site was partially overgrown, enough remained to reveal its grandeur. The sacred plaza, the Temple of the Sun, the Intihuatana stone survived centuries untouched. For Bingham, it was not just a discovery, but a revelation, a city preserved in time. Yet the rediscovery was not truly his alone. The Quechua people had always known of Machu Picchu, farming its terraces, grazing animals on its slopes. To them it was no revelation, only a remnant of their ancestors. But it was Bingham who brought the city to the world's attention, photographing it, mapping it, and sending its name echoing across continents. The news of a lost Inca city captured imaginations everywhere, feeding the romantic vision of a forgotten civilization untouched by time. Scholars rushed to study it, adventurers dreamed of it, and slowly the vines and moss were cleared away to reveal the full scope of the city. But with rediscovery came controversy. Bingham excavated artifacts and carried them to Yale, igniting debates about ownership, heritage, and cultural theft that continue to this day. Still, the impact was undeniable. Machu Picchu stepped out of the shadows of history, no longer a ghost city, but a global icon. Its rediscovery was less a finding than a resurrection, a reminder that the past is never truly gone, only waiting to be uncovered. And as the world gazed on this mountain sanctuary for the first time, it seemed as if the Inca had spoken across the centuries, revealing a fragment of their greatness that even conquest could not erase. Today, Machu Picchu stands as the most recognizable symbol of the Inca world, a city that draws millions of travelers across oceans and continents. Yet despite the crowds and the cameras, its essence remains a riddle. Scholars debate its original purpose. Was it a royal estate for Pachacati, a retreat where the emperor could command the mountains and the sun? Or was it a sacred sanctuary, a ceremonial city dedicated to the gods of sky and stone? The evidence points in many directions. Temples aligned to solstices, stones carved to echo sacred peaks, water channels engineered with flawless precision, and agricultural terraces that could sustain a hidden community. Each element suggests layers of meaning beyond mere habitation. The very location of Machu Picchu raises questions. Why build here on a knife-edge ridge between steep valleys, surrounded by cliffs and rivers? The choice was not practical, it was symbolic. The Inca placed their city at the meeting of forces, a place where the earth and heavens converged, where the flow of the Urubamba River mirrored the Milky Way above. To them, Machu Picchu was more than stone. It was a living landscape, a cosmic axis binding humans to gods. Yet much remains hidden. The city was abandoned before the Spanish conquest, leaving no written records, no chronicles, only stones whispering across time. Why did the Inca leave it? Some say plague, others say political collapse. Still others claim it was simply no longer needed once Pachacati was gone. The truth lies buried beneath centuries of silence. Even its rediscovery did not solve its riddles. Instead, it deepened them. Tourists walk its paths, but the city does not reveal all. Archaeologists find new terraces, hidden caves, unexplored chambers sealed beneath the ground. Local legends speak of tunnels connecting Machu Picchu to Cusco, of hidden chambers filled with gold offerings to the gods, of the city itself being only one piece of a larger spiritual map that the Inca carved into the mountains. What is clear is that Machu Picchu is not frozen in the past. It continues to live, breathing through the stones, the clouds, and the people who guard it. For the Quechua descendants of the Inca, it is not just a tourist site, but sacred ground, proof of their ancestors' genius and resilience. For the modern world, it is a reminder that civilizations rise and fall, but their echoes endure in ways no empire can erase. Machu Picchu's true mystery may never be solved, but perhaps that is its power, was never meant to be explained, only experienced, a bridge between what was and what remains eternal, as our journey through these forgotten cities draws to a close. One truth becomes impossible to ignore. Civilizations rise not simply on stone, wood, or wealth, but on vision, faith, and the will to shape the world around them. Yet just as surely as they rise, they fall, swallowed by time, nature, or their own mistakes. From the sands of Petra to the jungles of Angkor, from the drowned ruins of Thanissaro Klayan to the misty heights of Machu Picchu, each city has whispered a warning across the centuries. Permanence is an illusion. Their grandeur was once unquestionable, their power seemingly eternal, yet all now lie broken, reclaimed by silence. What happened to them could happen again to us. The ruins we explored reveal more than mystery. They reflect ourselves. They tell us that every empire believes it will last forever, but history shows otherwise. Some collapsed under the weight of greed. Others were abandoned when faith shifted or resources ran dry. Some were destroyed by conquest, others by the quiet force of time. In every case, human pride met forces greater than itself, whether war, famine, plague, or the unrelenting power of nature. Yet these cities are not merely graves. They are lessons carved into stone and shadow. They remind us of what humans are capable of, building temples aligned to the stars, carving entire mountains into sanctuaries, harnessing rivers, engineering worlds in places where survival itself seemed impossible. They remind us that knowledge, art, and faith can defy death, echoing long after their creators are dust. And they remind us that every generation lives atop ruins, whether we recognize it or not. The modern skyscraper stands where once a forgotten temple rose. The roads we drive follow paths first carved by forgotten hands. We are heirs of lost cities, shaped by their achievements and their failures. So, as we walk through Petra's carved tombs, wander Angkor's jungle halls, or gaze down the terraces of Machu Picchu, we should not ask only why they fell, but also what they still have to teach us. For their stories are not simply about loss, but about endurance. They tell us that beauty survives ruin, that memory survives silence, and that mystery itself is a form of immortality. These cities may be lost, but they are not gone. They remain, waiting in stone, in earth, in water, whispering to those who will listen. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Civilizations end, but the human need to dream, to build, to reach for eternity that never dies.